Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled People Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. My daughter is demanding to go vegan. After that, am I the jerk for not allowing my daughter to contact her biological parents? And after that, if you say so, I'll comply. In the end, we'll all lose. Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen doesn't get to go vegan. Oh, how I love the stories with the vegans in them. So please smash that like button. And subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. My daughter is demanding to go vegan. My wife and I have 8 kids between us. I know it's a lot, no need to comment on it. This post is mostly about our 13-year-old, Gina. Gina came to me recently and said that she wants to be vegan. I told her I'll pay for groceries, but she'll have to plan and cook her meals. She can't live off frozen food or takeout, and her mom and I will be making sure that her meals are healthy before taking her grocery shopping. She was not thrilled. She asked if we could make a small change to our diet to accommodate her, like switching to vegan pasta and cooking the meatballs separately. But we said no, because we aren't going to change our food and eating habits because she wants to be vegan. She said okay and went to her room. Then she started sending me and my wife links to expensive pots and pan sets. One set was $800. Plates, cups, and bowls for $200, and her own utensils. I asked her why she was sending this to me, and she said that she needs new pots and pans and plates, etc., because ours are contaminated. I told her ours are perfectly fine, and if she wants her own, she can buy them with her allowance and start babysitting. Later that day, I got a call from one of my sons saying that Gina was telling him and my other kids that they have to get all of their snacks out of the fridge in the game room. The game room has a kitchenette, because she needs it for her vegan food. When I called and asked what she was doing, she said her vegan food can't be in the same fridge as our food, and it's not fair to make her go all the way to the garage when she's hungry, so she thought taking over the game room kitchenette would be a good compromise. I told Gina I'm done with all the vegan BS, and that she can't be vegan while living in my house. She threw a temper tantrum because she thinks I'm being cruel, and she's barely spoken to me since then. So I wanted to know if I was the jerk. Not the jerk, but this issue is a lot more complicated. It's not about being a vegan. I have a 13-year-old daughter. At this age, kids feel like they have zero control over their lives. They're desperately trying to find a way they can assert control. Let's also call a spade a spade. 13-year-old girls are emotional roller coasters. May I suggest you and your wife have a heart-to-heart with her? Understand why this is important to her. Don't dismiss her feelings. After you've let her explain her position, calmly reiterate your family's limits and abilities to accommodate her food choices. This situation needs to be handled with communication. Nothing good ever comes from dismissing a teenager. Yeah, I wonder how much of Gina's demands are in part because she's lost in the shuffle of her new large family. And if OP's family is like many other big families I've met, there's probably a fair amount of domestic and childcare duties that are dumped onto her. I know that he doesn't want us to comment on it, but 8 kids is a lot. Kids can feel lost in the shuffle with half that number, so I can only imagine 8. OP also mentions in another comment that they have one kid with a shellfish allergy, so there's no shellfish in the house at all, and another kid with severe medical issues whose diet is monitored and the family eats food that is okay for the kid. I wonder if this whole vegan thing is an attempt to get attention and consideration that she feels like she's not getting. I grew up with 3 siblings, one with a medical issue. And even though my parents were very attentive and present, sometimes I felt lost in the shuffle. I can't imagine what the girl must be going through. Being 13 is hard enough, but not feeling important in your own family must really suck. Telling her to make her own food makes perfect sense, but the family can still help accommodate her by making simple adjustments, like cooking the meatballs separately. Maybe they can compromise by starting with a vegetarian diet instead. That would probably be an easier transition for everyone, and then she can move to veganism as she gets older. You're the jerk for so many reasons. 1. Having 10 kids? I'm personally child-free, and I don't think anyone should be having kids with the current issues our world is facing. The fact that you have 10 shows how extremely selfish you are. 2. Your daughter wants to become vegan to make a positive change in the world, something you and your wife have no consideration of whatsoever. And instead of supporting her, you just inflict your outdated way of living onto her. I hope she goes no contact with you and finds friends who will support her in her journey to heal Mother Earth. And I hope you and your wife stop bringing kids into the world that you clearly aren't fit to raise. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or their daughter? Please let us know. I can't help but wonder if Reddit might not be the best place to seek parenting advice. Am I the jerk for not allowing my daughter to contact her biological parents? I, 40 female, and my husband, 42, have a daughter who's 9. She was adopted when she was born by myself and my husband, and she knows that she's adopted. Her biological mom was a very sweet 17-year-old who wanted to give her the best life she could. I don't know if her father ever even knew she was born. Recently, she had a school project where she was supposed to write about where she comes from. She's determined to find her biological mother and father to find out. I offered for her to write about our family instead. My husband and I don't want her reaching out to them. We told her this, and she's upset, saying that we don't understand and she'll always wonder about them. She said we're being selfish and keeping her from finding out who she is. We obviously just want what's best for her. Am I the jerk? Commonly asked questions. The adoption was closed per my husband and I's request. The birth mother did give us her contact information in case our daughter ever wanted to find her. She does have a letter from her birth mother explaining why she was adopted and that it wasn't because she didn't love her. Update. I took some people's advice and called the phone number I have. To my surprise, she returned my voicemail. So I did get her age wrong. She was 18 when we adopted our daughter and is now 28, not married and no additional kids. She did confirm the biological father does not know my daughter was born. I let her know why I was calling, but I truly did not want them to have communication. I explained my reasoning and that we're her parents and are only doing what we think is best. She let me know that when my daughter and I are ready, she'll be there to answer any questions. I should also add her biological mother did offer to do an interview by sending a video answering my daughter's questions or an email. Please, please, please reconsider this. Do some research. My little sister was adopted at birth in a similar situation, and I'm a foster and adoptive parent now. And I promise, if you don't let her meet her birth family when she's younger, she will create her own narrative about them. They won't be real. They will be saviors or demons, and that will follow her into adulthood. So will questions about who she is, where her freckles came from, why she's allergic to cats. If she meets them now, much like a beloved but weird aunt, or a step-cousin who lives in the basement, or a best friend you adore but still see as human, she can accept them as real people, like all of us, with great attributes and maybe serious flaws. Even if she struggles, you have years left to process and be there for her and help her through it. That is not necessarily the case if your lack of support makes her take this journey as an adult or otherwise without you. Please evaluate whether saying no is really born out of your fears and anxiety. And kindly may be a self-centered choice. You may worry that her birth mother is younger, prettier, funnier, that they will instantly connect, that you will be replaced. But you have to know that the bond you've grown over these past 9 years is not replaceable, right? She will still love you. You are still mom and dad, and if she finds someone else to love and be loved by in this world, that's what we all want for our kids. Life is better the more people that love you. Please also look into some adoption communities. Adoption kids are so much more at risk of serious mental health issues, and a lot of that is these unanswered questions, this burden of never knowing their original families. Read The Primal Wound. Read studies on adoptee well-being. You would absolutely be putting her emotional and psychological health at risk by refusing her these connections. And if you do refuse, what's the upside for you here? She does it in secret online through Facebook research and forms a relationship without you even knowing? I mean, she can just do a DNA test as a teenager and she'll probably get some hits and you'll never know. Maybe she even waits till 18, but now she knows your insecurity and finding her biological family isn't something she shares with you, either for your sake or hers. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk for not wanting their daughter to meet her biological mom or not? Please let us know. If you say so, I'll comply. In the end, we'll all lose. Tiny bit of pertinent information. In 2014, I had a C-section to bring my son into the world. I was let go from my previous job because they didn't want the liability if something happened to a pregnant woman on the job. I was rehired by the fast food company where I held my very first job, which is not McDonald's. It's a bit higher price than that, where you could get fried chicken, a hot dog, and a double cheeseburger at the same time. There will be no mention of my kid's father because he wasn't there for us. I lived with my eldest sister, who was more like a mom to me, which is why she's mentioned in this story. She was the person I had with me when I had my C-section. She has been the one there for my son every moment of his life. My doctor said if I was going back to work before his recommended 4 to 6 weeks of healing time and rest, that I had to be on light duty and that I was not to lift more than the weight of my son, which was 6 pounds. The story. I was rehired by a fast food company that was always extremely busy at each major point in the day. Lunch made over $800 between noon and 1 p.m., and dinner made over $700 from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Of note, the only reason I was rehired was because hiring manager loved me to pieces. When I left the first time, she told me I always had a job with her because she loved my work ethic. She said that I was the best worker she had had in years. Nobody ever picked up extra shifts as quickly as I did. Nobody cared to learn as fast as I did. So since I had previous experience, they wanted me to work lunch rush, but I begged them to let me work dinner. Dinner would allow me to spend quality time with my newborn, and my sister, who I lived with, would be home from her job to take care of my son while I worked. Now, I started a month after my C-section, right? Wrong. I started 2.5 weeks later. If I didn't, I couldn't be hired. I had actually gone back to my doctor and asked his office to write a full letter explaining my light duty requirements and took it with me my first day back. I walk into the manager's office expecting to see my hiring manager, or at least a manager I recognized. Nope. Enter stupid manager, who had worked as an hourly employee at another location and thought she knew better than everyone. I handed stupid manager my doctor's note, and she looks at it like she's holding a dirty baby diaper. I asked her to make sure hiring manager sees it, and she doesn't respond. I shrug it off and walk to the back where the break room was. I saw that all of my coworkers were the same from the last time I'd worked there, and they all crowded around me to see baby photos. I was crying the entire time because it felt like a homecoming. It felt like I was finally surrounded by a support system. Until stupid managers screamed that we needed to get back to work when there wasn't even a customer. We all scattered like flies and made ourselves look busy. I'd kept my phone in my pocket before clocking in, and I periodically checked it, always between customers, to make sure nothing had happened to my son while I was gone. I would think most, maybe not all, managers would have understood that I hadn't been texting, just quickly checking for new notifications, but not stupid manager. She hated it. She'd been sitting in the office checking the cameras, and I suppose I'd checked my phone one too many times. Yay, postpartum depression and anxiety. Stupid manager came flying around the corner at light speed and stared daggers at me. Hazel, what do you think you're doing? You cannot be on the phone while you're clocked in. You should know this already. Now, I'd never been one to deal well with being yelled at, so I just said I was sorry. Some of my coworkers stood up for me, which again made me cry. Stupid manager apparently hated crying too. She turned back to me, shooting the same daggers into my soul. What are you crying about now? Thankfully, a customer walked in, so she just stormed off. I saw red. Within the hour, I watched her start to get ready to leave her shift, which I thought was a blessing. Of course it wasn't. Enter lazy manager, who I'd had issues with the last time I'd worked there. Not that I said anything, she just never worked. She sat in the office, staring at the cameras, eating food from the line, which the company said is illegal. You don't get free food, you get a discount on food. Did she ever pay for it? Not once. She wrote it off as part of the end-of-day throwaway food. I can't remember what it's actually called on the end-of-day report. Lazy manager saw me and her face fell. Oh, hey Hazel, she said with disdain. I put on the sweetest smile and attempted to make small talk with stupid manager, but they made a major mistake. They left the door cracked, and wouldn't you know it, I worked on the side of the line closest to the door where I could hear everything. This is how it went. Lazy manager. I thought hiring manager told her no. Stupid manager. I guess not. She's been on her phone all day. Lazy. Of course she has. She's the worst employee we've ever had. Ugh. I'll call hiring manager and figure this out. I've never disliked someone as much as I dislike her. Stupid manager. She seems pretty lazy. Oh, here's the pitiful doctor's note. Lazy. Haha, we'll see how that works. It's not like we've never had kids before. Now that fully ticked me off. I bit my tongue. I waited for what I knew was coming. I knew exactly what I was going to do because I was just plain sick of being bad-mouthed by others. Stupid manager leaves and lazy manager calls me to the office. I was in the middle of making an order, but she is the manager after all. I left that poor person's order sitting right on the line and walked to the office. Yes, lazy manager? She doesn't even look up from the computer. Hazel, what's this doctor's note for? I just take my phone out of my pocket and try to show her pictures of my son. Oh, you had a kid? In a tone that implied nobody would ever want to be with me or something. I smile sweetly and nod, a plan working itself out in my head. Fast forward 4 days. Lazy manager hasn't been helping us close the store at all, and I've been getting home after 2 a.m. every day from a place that closes at 10 on weekdays, 11 on weekends. I'm done. My sister can't keep taking care of my kid like this, and it's completely unfair. Lazy manager is working again, and we're really busy. I go to put fries in the fryer because our fry cook is busy making chicken tenders. I open the little freezer besides the fryers, and it's empty, which I knew it would be because I never saw anyone put a new box in. Huh, that sucks. Hey, we're out of fries out here, I yell. No response. Hey coworkers, fry cook is busy and we need fries out here. Nothing. Odd. Oh well. Hey, lazy manager, we need fries out here. Lazy manager opens the office door. Get them yourself, Hazel. I walk over to the office. Lazy manager, I can't. My doctor said I can't lift more than 6 pounds. Lazy manager rolls her eyes and looks dead at me. Look, go get the darn fries out of the freezer now. 2 boxes. I don't care about this my doctor said crap. Do it and stay off your phone. And there it was, my opportunity for malicious compliance. I walk into the freezer and look at the box of French fries. I really shouldn't. This could be detrimental to my health, according to my doctor. But lazy manager said so. Now, I'd noticed that morning that a couple of my stitches hadn't started dissolving yet, so I'd already called and scheduled an appointment about 2 weeks early. This was all lining up perfectly. I grabbed that fry box on the bottom shelf and shifted it where I could read its weight. I wasn't supposed to be on my phone, but she obviously couldn't see me in the freezer. I snapped a picture of the box. I sent it to my sister with the message, "Manager told me I have no choice but to do this myself. Doesn't believe my doctor's note at all. Can't respond. She won't let me use my phone anymore either." I made sure the message was sent and then switched my phone off. Grabbed that fry box and lifted it and carried it to the little freezer 20 feet away. I'll say one thing for adrenaline. It definitely works to numb pain until it wears off. I felt a wetness in my pants and excused myself to the break room. Not the bathroom. That was too private for this. I turned where the cameras couldn't see me and looked in my pants. It was blood. I was bleeding. But from where? Oh, that's right. The stitches that hadn't started healing yet. But there was another pain I'd never experienced. I walked to the lazy manager with a napkin covered in blood. Thankfully, the line wasn't anywhere near the office. I would never contaminate someone's food. Because of course, I tried to stop the bleeding. I was immediately sent home to my sister, who was in a severe panic over the message. I called my doctor's office with 10 minutes to spare and explained the situation, and was scheduled for the following day and told to go to the hospital if the bleeding continued. My sister and I bandaged me up to the best of our ability, and I waited for my appointment. When my doctor found out why I still picked up that fry box, he sounded more like a concerned father figure when he said, "I'll handle it." But I assured him I had it myself. All I needed from him was a doctor's note. You see, I'd found out that hiring manager, who was also the store manager, who was lined up to become district manager, had come back from vacation. She was actually scheduled for the following day, and I was supposed to work. I waddled into that store, in uniform, doctor's note clutched in one hand, the other grabbing every solid surface it could to absorb some of the shock of movement. She took one look at me and guided me to a chair in the break room, concern written all over her face. "Hazel, what happened?" So I told her everything. She asked me if I ever gave either manager a doctor's note, and I said I had. She couldn't find it, but she didn't need to. What lazy manager and stupid manager didn't know was that my sister had a printer that could scan documents, and we had a weird feeling that we would need a copy of the first doctor's note. So not only did I have a new note clutched in my hand, but stapled to it was a copy of the original note that told the managers that I was supposed to be on light duty because if I ripped a stitch, it could lengthen my healing process. The new note explained that since I was not given light duty, I not only ripped a stitch, but pulled a few muscles in my lower body. When hiring manager read both notes, she was furious. She checked the schedule, and when she saw neither of the other managers were working, she called them both in for a meeting. She asked me if I would stay for said meeting and that I could sit in the office in her comfy desk chair while we waited. I took that seat and waited for the show. 30 minutes later, hiring manager was giving them an earful, telling them they had no right to disregard doctor's orders and that they should never have told me to stop being on my phone. Turns out, hiring manager had worked for this establishment when she had her youngest, so she knew the anxiety of being away from a newborn for too long. I watched stupid manager get fired on the spot, but not lazy manager. Lazy manager was demoted to line cook, because hiring manager told her she needed to relearn some humility. She worked as a line cook at another store for about a month and was then fired for stealing food. Edit. When I first posted this, some people were wondering why I didn't sue the company. First, it didn't even cross my mind because I had never been through something like that. Second, when it was brought up to me by my best friend, my sister said it wasn't worth it for some reason. Third, I was more worried about the immediate need to provide diapers and formula for my son. If you were curious, hiring manager found alternative ways for me to work. She gave me a comfortable stool to sit at and trained me on the cash register. I got to sit there and take orders instead of walking around while going through another 2 months of healing. And I was given an extra meal a day through the company at her request. She also helped me get to the restroom every time I needed to go, gave me extra break time, and if she couldn't help me, she made sure someone else could. Maybe it was so she didn't have to worry about a lawsuit, but part of me thinks it's because she cared about me like a mother figure would, well before I had my son. My son and I are doing great. I healed amazingly well. Yes, I knew my stitches weren't healed, and yes, my logical brain said, this is bad, don't hurt yourself for these people. But I also didn't realize I'd actually ripped the stitches out of my body, nor that I could tear muscles that easily after a major surgery. I didn't ask, the doctor didn't tell, and my sister didn't know either. How I got my landlord arrested for auto theft. I used to live in a rental townhome. The place was great. It was run by a big company, but they paid an on-site super to run the office, coordinate repairs, etc. When I moved in, it was this nice older retired couple. Few years later, they moved on, and the company hired these two young dudes. They were jerks, recent college grads, and looked down on the blue-collar tenants, did loud parties all night, generally ignored the grounds, ignored maintenance requests, etc. But that's not how I got them arrested. In addition to renting the townhouse, you could rent a covered spot. If you did, they gave you a hang tag, and if you didn't have the hang tag, you'd get towed. I had the same car, same spot, and same tag the whole time I lived there. One day I come out and my car is gone. It was towed for no hang tag, but in the pictures the tow company took, it's clearly there. I paid to get it out and complained to the two idiots. They had to call to authorize a tow. Company couldn't just do it on their own. They gave me a half-asserted apology. About a week later, same problem. Again, towed for no tag. Again, the tag was right there. This time I called the corporate office and complained. After that, it started happening nearly every day. When I talked to the supers about it, they'd just laugh. I knew they were doing it on purpose, so I did some research. The tow company gave me the names of the people who were calling it in, and it was mostly one guy, but sometimes the other. The tow company wasn't liable because the landlords had called them, so that was that. But I did some research and found out that in my state, calling for a tow when you know it's not a legal tow is grand theft auto, just like if you broke into a car. I also found out you can record conversations in my state without telling the other person. So I went in to meet the two bros to talk about the situation. They told me, on tape, that the first 2 times were mistakes, but after that they did it on purpose and would keep doing so until I learned my lesson. They stated that they knew I was okay to park there, but they didn't care. I took that recording and the list of calls to a buddy who's an attorney, and he helped me take it to the local police. Police were more than happy to have a couple felony charges dropped into their laps, so they filed charges and went to arrest them. Corporate fired them the same day, refunded all of my fees for getting my car out, and gave me a rental discount for a few months. They both ended up eating the felony and got probation. Last I heard, they weren't able to find decent jobs because of the felonies, and also couldn't pay their student loans. Both ended up working construction, which they had sneered at because that's all they had left. Picking everything to death finally backfires. I live in a duplex with my partner. The other unit is occupied by 2 roommates who I'll call Cassie and Karen. We're all in our 30s and we all work from home. Cassie has lived here several years. My partner and I have been here for a few years. We get along well with Cassie, who's very friendly and helpful, a great neighbor who's become a friend. Over a year ago, Cassie's wonderful roommate moved out and Karen came along. We were welcoming to Karen, giving her some homemade baked goods on her move-in day, inviting her to hang out, offering some tips on the neighborhood, etc. But there was always a wall. I'll admit that was a little disappointing. We'd grown accustomed to having easy, comfortable friendships with our duplex neighbors, but I respect that people have plenty of valid reasons for keeping to themselves. My partner and I have tried our best to be good neighbors regardless. Slowly but surely, the vibe changed at the house. Cassie, the extrovert of the group, spent more and more time alone in her room. There were fewer impromptu yard hangouts, a shared space where we used to hang out together. There are often no sounds at all from their unit, even when they're both home. Cassie finally revealed to me how controlling Karen had become. Cassie is a 30-something with a curfew now, who has to walk on eggshells in the house she's lived in for years. Even the smallest actions cause tension, and trying to discuss them or set boundaries upsets Karen. Cassie even recently procured a mini fridge so she doesn't have to use their shared kitchen. Karen has also revealed more and more controlling tendencies towards me and my partner. We're in a separate, unattached unit. For example, according to Karen, we water the shared grass too much, even though it's not her call. The landlord wants a green lawn and pays the water bill. We make too much noise walking in this creaky old house. We don't even have guests indoors because of lockdown in grad school. We are quiet walkers. We don't wear shoes in the house. We try our best to avoid stepping on the creakiest parts of the floor and generally have light footfalls. It's just a matter of us having different work and school schedules, which is kind of out of our hands. My partner keeps his bike in the shared storage space, and it's somehow in Karen's way unless it's positioned very precisely. She does not have mobility issues or any clear reason to need or want this. Once when I was working on an art project on the porch, including spraying a protective coating, which I did at a downward angle at close range and with good aim, she came out to investigate her garden meticulously to ensure no chemicals were getting on her plants. They were about 10 feet away. It's hard to describe, but it was very peculiar. We talked to Karen too much. She once literally asked for space when we ran into her on the street and said, "Hello, how are you?" The cherry on top is that almost everything Karen has a problem with is conveyed through passive-aggressive texts. Sometimes aggressive texts. Then she'll randomly be excessively cheerful without addressing the outburst or disagreement, as though to signal her regret. It's unsettling. Then, one fateful day, we watered Karen's garden bed. She hadn't for days and it was hot. The little plants, mostly new transplants, were drooping. We were already out watering our own garden and figured it would be neighborly to help her out. Since hers is the closest to the hose, it also felt kind of mean to pass it by. We kept doing it as summer went on. Her plants began to thrive. Karen eventually cornered my partner in the yard and told him to stop watering her garden. We obliged. For a time, she took better care of her plants. But now it's time for our malicious compliance to shine. Karen got sick when she caught it last month. For several days, Karen stayed inside with the friend that she caught it from. Thus, she was not here during a stretch of dry, hot weather. In her absence, we fell back on the last instruction she gave us: don't touch her garden. Some of Karen's plants are dead now. The ones that are still alive were weakened and are being visited regularly by slugs, snails, and caterpillars. Earlier on in her time here, I'd offered to help Karen with non-toxic pest control, including an offer to personally pull bugs off her plants by hand, but apparently she prefers to do it all by herself. Cassie was also under strict orders to never water Karen's plants. She did as she was told, and Karen's indoor plants are now dying as well. There's one especially crispy one in the window. Since she returned from lockdown, Karen has been acting nicer towards her roommate, but has not said anything at all to me and my partner. We're breathing a little easier without her micromanagement, and Cassie seems relieved that there's less tension for now. All's well that ends well, I guess. Am I the jerk for not believing my daughter's obvious lie and canceling our weekend? Last week, I went to use my Bluetooth headphones. They were gone out of my bag where they always are. I asked my daughter if she had them. She's always taking my stuff without asking. I've told her all she has to do is ask whenever she needs to borrow my stuff. That's all I ask in return. Because I know I won't get it back, as she'll deny it. She said no. I was skeptical. She guilt-tripped me, saying I'd never believe her, etc., which she's not wrong. I don't, as she has a history of lying. She's constantly lying to me, even small, insignificant things. It's frustrating. I felt awful and apologized. Just assumed I'd left them in the car or somewhere else. I wanted to believe her. Anyway, yesterday I was in her room looking for something I know she had borrowed, which I needed back. I didn't go through her stuff or anything of the sort. I respect her privacy. Noticed her makeup bag on the floor and had a look in there for my moisturizer, and there are my headphones. I was not happy. Decided I'd wait to talk to her when I picked her up from her course. When she gets in the car, I tell her I found them and ask why she had lied. She keeps saying she doesn't know how they got there, etc. I ask to see her Bluetooth pairings on her phone, as if it's not paired, I'd believe her. She wouldn't. We argued about it for at least 10 minutes She kept up the argument that I wouldn't believe her either way, which I told her, no, that's not true. She just refused to show me. She wouldn't budge, she ended up crying, and I could tell she was very, very stressed. I kept asking to see the pairings, that if she hadn't used them, they wouldn't be in her phone. She ended up getting out of the car and walking off. I watched her, and unsurprisingly, she got on her phone straight away. I gave her a couple minutes for myself and her to calm down, then asked her to get back in the car. I asked again to please just show me her pairings. I wasn't surprised when she showed me straight away. I knew she had deleted it when she got out. It was just so obvious to me. I said to her, "You flat out refused to show me before you had a chance to delete it. You were in obvious distress about showing me, but as soon as you had the chance to delete it and get back in the car, you show me straight away. I wasn't born yesterday." But now I'm the jerk because I said I'd believe her and now I don't. I'm at my wit's end with her constant lies and deceitful tendencies. I want to believe her, I truly do. It just doesn't make sense for her to not know about them being in her makeup bag when she had makeup on when I picked her up. I'm meant to be taking her and her friend away for a trip this weekend to hot pools and a bungee jump. I want to cancel it if she doesn't own up to the truth. Am I the jerk? Edit for info. She's almost 18. I started to recognize this behavior as an issue from around the age of 5. She's been in and out of therapy from the age of 13 or 14, always stops and refuses to go back after several sessions due to thinking the therapist is a jerk. Her words from her most recent one. Even though she likes it at first and is open with chatting to me about it again at first. She's had no major trauma that I know of apart from me and her dad splitting when she was 3. She was week on/week off with us co-parenting together. Anyway, little update. She rang me. I completely avoided the subject of asking for her honesty entirely and went straight to asking her if she'd be open to trying therapy again. She lost it on me, started saying very hurtful things, even said she'll be spending Christmas at her dad's. No idea where that came from. I let her finish and asked what time she will be home as we need to sit down and have a chat. I told her I won't be angry, we just need to talk. She's not coming home tonight apparently. I didn't get a chance to let her know I will be canceling the weekend as she hung up on me after telling me she wasn't coming home. Thank you to everyone that's taken the time to comment, not the jerk, or you're the jerk, etc. It's all helped. I've tried to keep up, but there's so many. I will do my best to answer.
Support our channel by joining as a member today, and we'll give you a shout out in our next video.
Or come watch this video next. You won't believe what Karen does in that one.